Hello and welcome to Frontier Gaming. I'm Jarrett.
And I'm Henry.
And today we're going to be talking about Privateer Press's new skirmish game, Company of Iron. Based in the Iron Kingdoms, which is the setting for Warmachine and Hordes, Company of Iron is a skirmish-based game where you commandeer a unit of special operatives and take them into combat with much tighter quarters than you would in a normal game of Warmachine and Hordes. It uses a deck system with cards that are both for your commander specifically and also a host of abilities that you can use in the middle of the game. And it's kind of a rapid departure from what we've come to expect from Privateer Press. If you're familiar with Warmachine and Hordes, there's a couple of marked distinctions that separate Company of Iron from the base game. Primarily, you cannot use any large base models, which are generally your larger Warjacks and Warbeasts, and there's no Warcasters or Warlocks, so no Focus or Fury, which is sort of the hallmark resource system of Warmachine and Hordes, comes into play.
Yeah, taking that out is definitely a big change to the dynamics of things. Also, models you need to avoid are any models that are immobile. Those can't be, and huge bases isn't restricted to specifically like Warjacks or Warbeasts. So like a lot of the weapon crews you can't take. So that's always things to remember for list construction.
Mm-hmm. And one of the nice things about Company of Iron is that you'll shake off the dust on a lot of models that have been sitting on your shelf for some time. That's something you were talking about.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Cinerators have been exemplar cinerators have been models I've been wanting to put on the table more and more, but haven't really like snuck them into lists. But this in Company of Iron, they seem pretty sweet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the corner case solos that sort of are maligned or neglected in the faction that are starting to see more and more play. And then, of course, you've got some of your offenders that you'd expect, like the Kiki Monk, and he is a monster in Company of Iron. One of the other marked departures, though, is that it's a I go, you go activation system. So instead of having a sequence of events where you go through your entire force, you move a model, you activate a model, and then your opponent does the same, which creates a really interesting dynamic. The core mechanics remain unchanged. In fact, you use the cards directly lifted from Warmachine and Hordes. There is the resource system that is used in Company of Iron is based off of your hand, your hand size, and the cards that you draw. The way that you can boost is not through Focus and Fury, but is actually through a suite of abilities, as previously mentioned. And they come generally from your commander. And your commander is either a solo, a officer, or a unit leader that you selected, and who can be given a host of abilities based off of which command card you pick at the beginning of the game.
One command card that I've been picking quite often in the few test games we've done is a Master Strategist. So your commander gains +1 command. Once each game, you can play 2 command cards for their battle plans during the same round. And the command cards are the black cards, so it's the deck of cards you draw from to get effects like boosting and everything. But each half also has its own special ability to use. Being able to combine 2 of those in a single round can do some absurd, crazy things.
So command cards have 2 parts. There's the top half, which is called the battle plan, and the bottom half, which is the asset. And the battle plan, as was mentioned, can usually be used only once per round, and they convey some truly impressive abilities, which we'll get into in just a minute. And then the latter portion, which is the asset, and those are used by discarding the card. And there are 5 different assets.
5 different effects.
Yeah, you've got boosts, additional dies, shake, recover, and oh gosh, what's the last one? Rerolls. And those are all some like traditional mechanics you'd find in Warmachine and Hordes, and in Company of Iron they can really sway the effects of the battle. One of my favorite commander upgrades is actually Warbeast Handler, and that's something that is unique to Company of Iron. You have the ability to become a Beast Warden. In fact, your commander by default, regardless of whether or not he's a Jack Marshal, gains the Jack Marshal ability if he's a Warmachine, or the Beast Warden keyword if he's in Hordes. And the Beast Warden is actually simply just a mirror of the Jack Marshal abilities from Warmachine and put into Hordes. As previously mentioned, Focus nor Fury can hit the table at any point. So by taking Beast Wardens, you can basically Jack Marshal your Warbeast in the same manner, using the same rules and keywords as you could if they were playing with Warjacks.
Yeah, it allows a different dynamic when playing with the Warbeast. Being a Beast Warden, you get a special action, which allows you to cast cast the Animus of the Warbeast that you have. The other one that I've really wanted to use a little bit more is the Frontline Officer. So what it gives is your commander gets +1 command. Basically, all of your command cards allow you to give bigger command because a lot of the deck abilities require your models to be in your command range. So they give you a little extra bubble to play with to make things easier to play.
It's also worth mentioning, I think they all give you an extra 5 boxes as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because it'd be unfortunate to take a unit leader and then just, I took 1 damage, I'm done. But in addition to the command, the model also gains Unyielding, which gives it a little bit more survivability. And the special effect for it is once each round, you can discard any command card to boost an attack or damage roll.
That gives you a lot of consistency, which is really important in Company of Iron. We've got this really massive command deck here, and so it's the odds of you drawing the card you need is going to be pretty rare, even with decks or triggers that specialize on cycling cards, discarding and then drawing more, because there's a 40-card deck, and there's really generally a maximum of 5 turns in a 5 rounds, in a game of Company of Iron. So having the ability to boost on demand means that your hand could effectively be dead and of no real value to you. But even boosting a damage or an attack roll is always good in nearly every situation.
Yeah.
The last command ability I wanted to talk about, or commander upgrade, is Mission Specialist. And Mission Specialist is one that sees a lot of use. It gives +3 to your command, 2 more than the normal +1. But more than that, it gives +1 to your starting and priority rolls,
Which is...
It's insane. One of the elements of Company of Iron that differentiates it from Warmachine and Hordes is that you roll a die to see who goes first each round. And having +1 to that is pretty nuts.
Yeah. I've definitely lost a game because my opponent managed to back-to-back start the rounds.
Yeah.
It was painful to watch that happen.
I want to actually backtrack briefly. We mentioned that your commander gains +5 boxes, which doesn't sound like a whole lot in a game of Warmachine and Hordes. Just having a single infantry model with +5 boxes, while neat, generally won't extend their lifespan all that much. But one of the other things that Company of Iron introduces is the injury system, and that allows your models to keep on fighting after they would normally have been put in the dirt.
Yeah, so this is an additional roll right after disabled. So your model goes to disabled, and then you do this special injury check. So on a 1 or a 2, your model would die as normal. 3 and a 4, it is put into a condition known as injured. So what this means that it is automatically knocked down, and at the start of its next activation, you get to remake an injury roll. So it's not completely out of the game yet, but there's a good chance it will be.
And even models that are steady are still knocked down
Yes.
when they are injured, so they bypass that system. When you are injured, basically you are treated as being bleeding out, so you must recover from that, as Henry mentioned, and if you take any attack or any damage roll, you basically automatically die at that point. You are, however, all but immune to range attacks, except those originating within a ½ inch of that model. So that makes it a lot harder for you to get shot as your enemy thinks that, oh, that guy's dead or out of action. But what it does is it allows you to play infantry models and not have them just immediately evaporate off the table in the first couple rounds.
Exactly.
So it definitely gives it some back and forth.
Yeah. Like I've played a game where I played Knights Exemplar. And normally they touch a model and it's gone.
Yeah.
But there's been a few cases where a Knights Exemplar has wrestled with a model for 2 or 3 activations.
You know, it's interesting. The balance of forces in Company of Iron is so drastically differently. Oftentimes you want weapon masters to deal with loads of warjacks and heavy armor. And if you go without that, sometimes you'll be stopped by something as simple as a vanguard, because an armored 19 warjack with 20-odd boxes is a heck of a roadblock in this game.
Yeah.
But by and large, your weapon master abilities become sort of wasted points against a lot of the more common infantry you'll see in the game.
I guess the one thing I would prioritize in this game is definitely any model that gives you more than 1 attack. Having additional attacks to either finish the model you've injured or get another chance at it is really, really valuable for this game.
And it's worth mentioning that Company of Iron is played on a 30x30 board, and that board is going to be just chock full of terrain.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of the command card battle plans that you get go towards either circumventing or capitalizing on this overabundance of terrain. One of my favorite to use is the battle plan Keen-Eyed, which says that for the rest of the round, friendly models in your commander's command range can ignore cloud effects, forest terrain, and intervening models when determining LOS. So that means that if you are on a map that is just flooded with line of sight blockers, you can basically have full range of your range attacks to shoot whoever you want.
Yep. I played a circle player who brought some Blood Reavers, I think, and he managed to station up most of his models behind a forest and then played that card. So I was unable to interact with them. Yeah. And then he was able to just try and shoot off my whole front line.
Now, it is worth mentioning before we go into our next command card that when you're shooting it for a distance further than 8 inches, your range attacks will suffer a -2 to hit penalty.
So another way to get around some of the terrain, I'm a primarily Protectorate player, so Pathfinder's really hard to come by in my faction. But luckily, there's a card called Trailblazer. For the rest of the round, friendly models that begin their activations in your commander's command range gain Pathfinder. So this is a very useful card. It's a card I tend to dig for very heavily.
I bet you wish
when
you
I'm
had
playing.
that in Warmachine.
I would love to have this in Warmachine, let me tell you. Additionally, it's also a reroll card. So what this means is that if you discard it for not using its effect, you get to reroll an entire dice roll. So you don't get, it's not a specific die you get to reroll. You make them reroll whatever number of dice they rolled.
It's important to mention that you cannot do that to your opponent, but you can re-roll any die of your choosing. So that includes the priority roll to start the round.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly powerful. One of my favorite command cards to play is Tactical Repositioning. And it's worth talking about some of the missions that are present in Company of Iron. They're a marked departure from what you'd find in Warmachine. Instead of going and camping a zone or capturing a single flag, which does exist to an extent, I like to describe Company of Iron as Warmachine meets Counter-Strike. You are literally going in to rescue hostages, to blow up objectives, to detonate monuments, or to capture information.
Yep.
And the way you interact with these mission objectives is by performing an action. Now, if you have to walk over and then grab a mission objective, that generally doesn't leave you with a lot of opportunity to do much else in that round. So I like to play Tactical Repositioning, which says that you can choose a friendly model in your commander's command range. The chosen model can immediately make a full advance. Now, unlike a unit buff, this only applies to a single discrete model, which sounds interesting if you wanted to get him to like a better perch to attack more models. But what I really like to do is I like to activate that model, have him move up to an objective, grab it, and then basically fade away backwards after capturing it.
Oh, yeah.
Which does not give your opponent a lot of options to recover.
No, it doesn't. Because you're expecting the model to get up to an objective and then basically sit there, which gives your opponent a chance to
That window of
interact.
response, yeah.
Yeah. But for it to just be like, no, I'm done. See ya.
The last thing I want to mention is that Company of Iron is a very fast-paced game that can be played very quickly. I know that we're looking to play a set of 3 in about the span of an hour, and it's something that I think that we're going to have a lot of fun with playing on its own, but also in squeezing in between games of Warmachine or waiting for the next game to start.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're really excited for the official release, which is going to be on October 25th. And for those of you guys locally, we hope you can come out, and we'll see you then.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and tune in next time.
See you.